Right, so Neil Revington, Revington TR. What we have here is a beta. It's a beta that we call Scollob. The reason why we call it Scollob is because that's its registration number. And a beta is a TR3 body shell with wider wings, much wider here with the lights out on the wings, and it's based on a TR4 chassis. Now Triumph started out by, after the TR3, looking for a replacement, and of course they went to Giovanni Michelotti and had prototypes made by Vignali, and they were called the Zoom and the Zest. Unfortunately, Triumph were at a time when they really couldn't afford very much in the way of funds for tooling, so whilst they couldn't afford that tooling, they came up with this idea, which is the beta. So Triumph had these funny names for prototypes: Zoom, Zest, Zulu, daft names, and this one was the beta, which is actually a little bit more sane. This isn't a real beta. We have a real beta. That's 917 HP. You can look it up on the internet, which I own. But this is a kind of it's a version thereof as a racing car, and the idea is that it encompasses everything that's good about the TR range. So it has a TR4 chassis, it has a TR3 body, which is light and quite narrow, and it has a 6-cylinder fuel injected engine, so it's got a TR5 engine in it. So why didn't Triumph build the beta? Well, the fact is, of course, that in 1962 Leyland took over Triumph and were able to provide the funding for the tooling that was enabled the TR4 to be made, which eventually came out as more of a Zest than the Zoom. The Zoom is a slightly longer car. That one had a 20X engine, the Sabrina engine, and the Zest had the more conventional 4-cylinder engine, and basically Triumph went with a version of the Zest more than a version of the Zoom to go into production with the TR4. Two of these were made. There was a red one and a black one. This one's not surprisingly known as the black one, or rather the real one is. So how did this one come about? Well, maybe 25-30 years ago I was racing in the TR Registers race championship with my red TR2. Started off reasonably well until everybody understood what was going on, and then started to head back down the field, since my car stayed the same and other people were making their cars better. And I thought, well, it'd be quite good, as I mentioned earlier, to encompass all of the bits that are good about a TR, the TR series at the time, up to TR6, which would make, I thought, a very competitive race car. So the idea of building Scollob came out then, and unfortunately at the time, the guy who was running the championship, Mike Hughes, made it very clear that on no certain terms was I going to be racing a car that was such a hybrid. So it got shelved. And then children came along, and Marcus and Natalie, some years later when they were in their 20s, figured that they'd like to have a go at hill climbing and sprinting. The beta, this particular beta, started some 20-30 years ago as a project, as a race car. And it is a race car. It's not, you wouldn't use it on the road too much because it's quite hard on the suspension and it's very low. But it was always built as a race car, and originally this cage was so far back to enable the whole steering, the pedals and the whole engine to be mid-mounted. It was going to be quite radical. But it did mean there was going to be a lot of engineering involved. So the whole project was shelved from the race series time, which was in the early 80s, and decided not to go ahead. It was just put in a barn and left, and became rusty and scruffy and really quite a mess. But the bones of it had been built along with the special cage. Now what's special about the cage is that the cage is welded to the body, and if you want to take the body off you can do that in 20 minutes. You just unbolt the cage from the chassis and the body comes away with it. Obviously you have to undo certain things like steering, but nonetheless it can come away very quickly, so if you want to do repairs it's quite easy. Hill climb and sprints came along with my son and daughter. Marcus and Natalie figured they'd like to have a go, and this would be I don't know, maybe 10 years ago or so. So it was decided to start this project again. But there was a change to the thinking. Originally, as I say, the steering was going to be back, the pedals were going to be back, so that you'd sit way back. It'd be a very balanced car with probably a lot more weight at the back, which would make it steer very well. But Natalie's very short. I'm short, but she's shorter, and Marcus is normal size, maybe 5'10" or something like that. So we were going to have to move the seats backwards and forwards. So that meant cutting away the cage in the driver's side and pushing everything back forward again, and re-engineering the cage at the front so that it actually was able to fit we were able to fit the pedals where they should have been in the first place. So maybe 7 or 8 years ago we got to the point where all the body was done, which I did in my spare time, and everything about the car is designed as an easy disassemble. So for instance, you'll notice on the front wing there's a what's called a cam lock fastener. So this roll bar is, as I say, special in that it actually is bolted to or welded to the bodywork here, and in the boot we can see that as well. The boot actually reveals quite a story about the car, because it looks like a normal TR body shell until you look inside and you realise actually there really isn't very much of it anymore. We've cut away a lot of the unnecessary body, because as you can see with these bars here that are coming down and going right down onto the chassis in there doesn't need to be any strength to the inner body shell at all, because it's all taken by the roll cage. The bodywork looks fairly original apart from the Beta outer wings, but every outer body panel, believe it or not, is fiberglass. This is fiberglass, this is fiberglass. The only steel bit is that bit and that bit of the outer body shell. Even these quarter panels, which you can see just down this side here, they're actually fiberglass and they're not actually glued on. So if you take the wing off, they would just fall on the floor. They don't add any strength. So it's like a modern car where the outer panels are just for show. So around the car, the vent lid is just glued in, so it looks normal, but it isn't normal. And if we come round, I'll come round to you and we'll have a look at this side here and have a look at the door. That's fiberglass, but the inside is steel, and it's got a big cutout here to fit over the roll cage. So this is good and strong. The whole purpose of any cage in a race car is to make sure that you're safe, and this old good old cage here is as solid as you can get. We mentioned the cam locks earlier on the front of the wing, and they're all around on the gearbox tunnel there as well, so you could have this gearbox tunnel out in probably less than 2 minutes with your penknife. All to do with ease of maintenance. Well, I suppose we ought to have a look in the bonnet, didn't we, and see what's going on in there. So it's a bit different in here too, on account of the fact that we've got a 6-cylinder engine in here rather than a 4-cylinder. And once again, even though it's not right for the car, it's standard TR6 type stuff or TR5 type stuff, in that got normal fuel injection, normal distributor, alternator and so on. But the unique parts are things like the electrics are connected via one block, the brakes are on flexible lines, so you can take the brakes off, put them on the top of here, disconnect the electrics, disconnect the steering, and because all the fueling is on the chassis, you can actually lift the whole body off. And as I said, that takes 20 minutes or so, which is the way it's designed for speed of maintenance. Dual circuit brakes, which we use on a lot of cars, whether it's a rally car, a road car or whatever. Of course, TR2s to 3As and 4s and 4As didn't have dual circuit brakes, and so consequently there's a safety issue there. So many years ago we designed this dual circuit braking system that provides that extra degree of safety. But the engine is in the same place in this car with regard to how it would be in a TR5 and 6 chassis, although the relative position with regard to the centre of the chassis is the same, as it would be in a TR2, 3 or 4 as well. But the problem with that, of course, is that because the engine is that much longer, the gearbox might want to sit here, but the engine really does want to be that much further forward. So you'll notice there's a big cutout in the bodywork there, and that was necessary to be able to get the metering unit and the inlet manifold in and get it to operate without hitting everything. Quite a performance, but it's in there now and it'll stay in there. Visually, what makes a Beta unique is the four wings and the doors, which have to allow the shape with the extra 2 inches in the wings to flow in. The TR4 chassis is 4 inches wider than a TR2 3A chassis, and so that means 2 inches in either of the front wings. So the notable things on a Beta are having the indicators here rather than in the grille, and this new style grille that was developed by whoever made the grille for Triumph at the time. So we had to make one of these. Quite simple, sounds it. Bits of bars bent to the shape and then curved round to make a nice gentle curve, and then centre pillars. But it sounds easy, but weeks and weeks of work. Very, very difficult, but it makes it look so much different than a standard car. In the cockpit, very similar to a standard TR, you've got a glove box, because when you're racing, unless you've got myriad of people around you, you need somewhere to put your phone, your glasses and stuff while you're in the paddock. So a glove box with a lock is always helpful. So standard controls and instruments with the fuel, temperature, amps and oil pressure, and what normally TR4 kind of stuff here, but it's different here because we've got a 6-cylinder tacho. Everything else is TR3, TR4, but we have a 6-cylinder tacho. Bit orange light is always, everybody who knows a race car will notice that you always have one of these, and that's got its own sensor which is attached to the oil. So that comes on at 5 psi or 10 psi, something like that. And so if you see that glaring in your face when you're going around the track, pull over straight away and save yourself an engine. Gearbox, standard TR4 5/6 gearbox with 7 gears. 7 gears? Overdrive, of course. Overdrive on 2nd, 3rd and 4th. But of course we have our logic device, which is the world famous piece of kit, which is on this little switch here. And so the way the logic works is that if you change gear, the overdrive falls out. So typically what would happen is you'd be setting off in 1st, then you go to 2nd, click the switch, you're in 2nd overdrive, but when you change into 3rd, you're actually in 3rd straight without having touched anything, which makes it really very quick. In Malta a couple of years ago, in my TR5, I was accused of having a sequential gearbox in the car, which I thought was quite flattering really. I didn't. All I had was a logic overdrive device that enabled me to use 7 gears. So you can see how that operates when we put the ignition on and we put the car into 2nd gear, and the light comes on the dashboard here indicating that the overdrive is in. But when we change into 3rd, it goes out, and so we're now in straight 3rd. And then we put the overdrive on again, we're in 3rd overdrive. Straight 4th, don't have to take your hand off the wheel, and you're in 4th, and then 4th overdrive. But also if you go down the box, you go out of overdrive as well, which means that you don't have to think about the overdrive at any time. As soon as you change gear, it will come out, and usually, almost without any exception, you really would not want to go down from, say, 4th overdrive down to 3rd overdrive. You'd normally want to go from 4th down to 3rd, and then go back into 3rd overdrive if you needed to. So that's, you can see it operating. And the other thing that's interesting too is if you have it in overdrive and you turn the ignition off and put it back on again, then the overdrive is out. And that also means that if you have occasion to leave the overdrive on when you park, for instance, when you come back to the car, the overdrive will be off, and you never have to think about whether you left the overdrive on or off. The battery box is here. A bit inconvenient if a passenger wants to come along, but it's not a passenger car. So normal little battery in there, and then we have the cut-off switch here, which actually is a good idea for a lot of road cars too, because there aren't too many thieves that walk around with one of those in their pocket. So quite handy to have on your ordinary road car too. You do a little bracket that goes under the dashboard here, and this hangs down underneath where nobody would even see it, and it's very easy to get at when you get in the car. So yep, you have to have that fella on before anything will work. And one of the things that's important from a racing point of view is that when you start the car and you turn that off, the whole thing should stop. And if it doesn't do that, then you won't be going racing.